Welcome to LOA Today. Walt and a friend, a new life coach. Actually, life coach David Bartky's no longer with us. He has not. No, I don't mean he's no longer with us. I don't mean it quite that way. I mean he's decided he's moved on to other things. No, you people have the dirtiest minds, I tell you. No, seriously, David has decided he needed to move on to other things in his life, and we of course are sad to see that he's going, but we wish him well, and he may even be back sometime for an occasional drop-in, which would be really great. But we have a new co-host on Sunday evenings, Anne-Marie Cannata McEwen, a friend of Louise's and mine. We actually made friends with her and Mike last December for the first time. She lives somewhat nearby to where Louise and I live here in Connecticut, in Middletown, Connecticut, where she is the director of the Buttonwood Tree, a cultural arts center in Middletown. And she's also very well versed in the law of attraction. In fact, interesting little side story is that Anne-Marie had posted something online where she and Mike were doing a series. It was, I believe it was through meetup.com, if I remember correctly, on the law of attraction. And I found that, and I ended up contacting her because Louise and I were looking for law of attraction friends, people into the law of attraction. So there's an idea that gives you a good clue about where Mike and Anne-Marie are at. And the other thing that I should tell you about Anne-Marie and Mike is that the four of us, whenever we go out to dinner, we close restaurants. That's how interesting they are, that we all are to talk with each other. So Anne-Marie, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you very much for that very nice introduction. Very elaborate introduction. Thank you very much.
Well, our listeners are eager
to be here. I'm excited. I've been listening to your podcast for a while now and really enjoying it. And so I really appreciate you inviting me on. Thank you very much. I hope
glad to do it.
Do it justice and share some good stories with,
you will.
With the listeners.
I have no doubt that you will. Just because, this was full disclosure. Our listeners really do need to know just why it is I picked you. It's because when the four of us get together, we can't stop talking. That means there's no lack of content whenever we get together. So I figure, hey, an hour, we can handle that one. That's like, we can do that with two hands tied behind our backs. No problem at all.
That's right. That's right.
It's funny, too. Every time we've gone out, I think the last time we didn't actually close the restaurant, and it was only because I didn't want to close the restaurant. I didn't want to make the wait staff stand around waiting for us to decide to go out the door while they're looking at their watches saying, oh.
Yeah, that's right.
But actually, I think the last time we saw you guys was around the 4th when you invited us down to watch the fireworks with you, which was really fun. It was kind of a picnic that you had set up for your volunteers.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I invited up not all, but a lot of the volunteers at the Buttonwood Tree and just to get together and have a good time. So we had like a little cookout before the fireworks, and that was a lot of fun. So I'm so glad you came and joined us.
Yeah, it was great. It was also kind of an unusual evening because it was the first time I'd ever seen a fireworks barge catch on fire and end the fireworks display.
That's right. That's right.
That actually was a topic for conversation at the next podcast, I might add. But
right. That's right. I remember you talking about it. Yeah. That was funny. Yeah. Hopefully that won't happen again.
Oh, I hope not. No, but it was unique. I'd never seen that before. It was right as the display was really getting going, too. It was a nice display they had going on. It's kind of a shame that happened. But fortunately, nobody was hurt, so that was the main thing.
Yeah, Middletown does a nice job.
They really do. Very, very nice. Yeah, I was quite impressed. It's not like Middletown is a major city, and yet, they certainly act like it for the 4th. Whew.
Yeah, I guess we like to celebrate a lot.
I guess so, yeah. Well, it's a New England town, so, that kind of goes without saying, really. People around the country are saying, what on earth is he talking about?
Right.
You have to be here. You just have to live here. You have to understand by living here. That's all there is to it.
Right. Everybody move to Middletown, you'll see.
Yes, that's right. Now, if they were to move to Middletown, if they went down to Main Street, they would find this it's like in a retail shop, basically, a thing called the Buttonwood Tree. And we've talked about it a little bit indirectly here on the podcast, but we haven't had you on to talk about it. So tell our audience, what's the Buttonwood Tree all about?
Okay, well, first of all, let me clarify. We're talking about Middletown, Connecticut, because there are many Middletowns in all over the world, probably.
Well, this is true.
We're talking about Middletown, Connecticut. So I just want to clarify that.
That's a very good point, yes. Even though
So
those of us who live in Connecticut think there's only one Middletown in the world. But nevertheless, your point is well taken.
yes. So the Buttonwood Tree is a nonprofit performing arts center that has been around for 29 years. And I'm excited about celebrating our 30th year next year.
Woo!
Yes, but we were started by a Wesleyan alumni who is a poet, and I should say was a poet because she recently passed on May 15th. She
Oh.
just passed away, yeah. But Susan Allison started the Buttonwood Tree with her husband, Stephen Allison, back in 1989 as a used bookstore. And it was a place where poets could gather to talk about anything in the world. And so she held salons, and she also held yoga classes, and she sold books, and people gathered there. At the time in Middletown wasn't doing so well, and it was a place that people could get together and just safely get together and talk about current events or talk about the arts or share their music. And Stephen was a DJ at WPKN at the time, and he started bringing in musical acts, and people started coming from all over the place to play music. So it became known as the Buttonwood Tree, as just a really eclectic, artistic community space. And over the years, it sort of it changed locations once because there was a big fire and they were homeless for 2 years and had to get a new space. And so in 1997, we moved to the Aragoni Hotel, what used to be the Aragoni Hotel or Arawani Hotel or March Inn. It had many different names as it spanned the years from, I don't know, about 1920 or so. But anyway, it's now a supportive housing unit. So there's 40 apartments above us, and we take the bottom floor of this old hotel. It's a beautiful building with tall ceilings and exposed brick, and it's just got a great vibe, and it's got a great sound. So musicians love to play the room at the Buttonwood Tree. It's very small. It only holds about 45 people. So it's a very intimate show. I mean, some other performing venues talk about their intimacy, and I'm like, dude, you got nothing on us. We got intimate down.
This is true. Very true.
So musicians love to play the Buttonwood Tree, and they know us from all over the world. So musicians are knocking at our doors to play there, and I sort of, as the executive director, I pick and choose who I want to come and perform, and likewise local acts want to play there. Sometimes a musician might be just a part-time musician. It's like not their profession, but they might have picked up the guitar 10 years ago, and now they just came out with a CD and they want to share it with their friends and family. Well, where do you go?
Sure.
Well, the Buttonwood Tree is where you go.
Okay.
So we have all kinds of different performances. We do folk and jazz and bluegrass and gypsy jazz and singer-songwriters and a little bit of hip hop and just all kinds of music. And we also have done comedy, and we have some films, and we have done dance performances, and we've done a little bit of theater, a little bit of everything, but mostly music, I'd say. And we also still run a used bookstore. So we have 2 rooms. Well, we have a restroom, and we have 2 main rooms. And one room, the performance room, is also an art gallery. And then the other room is the bookstore and cafe where we serve coffee and snacks and things like that. And we pretty much run on volunteers. We have a wonderful volunteer staff. And every Friday and Saturday night, we have some kind of show. We also have 4 different open mics. Every Monday night, we have an open mic from 7 to 10. It's called Anything Goes Open Mic. And I put an alarm on for the show, and I just keep silencing it, I think. Sorry about that. Did you hear that? I hope you didn't hear that.
Actually, you went silent for a second, so it worked out okay.
Okay. So we have, like I said, we have that open mic. We also host, actually, Bob Gatta hosts the longest continually running open mic in the state of Connecticut. And that's on the first Thursday of every month from 7 to 9. Bob Gatta holds an acoustic open mic. And then we just started a teen open mic on the third Saturdays from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So kind of a little bit of everything. If you want to do poetry or dance or whatever, you come on a Monday. And there's also a lot of music on Monday. But I have seen from 5 years old to, I think the oldest performer I've seen was 86.
Wow.
So just a whole range of performers or people who just want to share them, their talents or their poem that they just wrote that they've never shared with anybody. We see a lot of that happening as well. And it's just an amazing thing to see somebody share such an intimate part of themselves with a group of strangers for the first time. It's just like, it's so amazing to see that. So I love the Buttonwood Tree and I love the open mics. So that's one of the things that we do that I think is just really endearing and fabulous for the community. It's just a great opportunity for people to have that space. And we also do moments of gratitude on Monday nights, which is just a little bit of time that I sort of started. Well, I didn't sort of start. I did start where people can share things, that they're grateful for. And people are always commenting on how grateful they are for the Buttonwood Tree. So if you've never been, I highly suggest you come down and check it out.
Yeah. Now, also for people who might not know what it is, what on earth is a Buttonwood tree? I mean, that's not exactly a common species, really.
Well, I'll explain. Sure. So and I get asked that question a lot. So back when Susan started her bookstore, she's quite into history as well. And she looked at the old map, and the street that her little shop was on was originally called Avenue of the Buttonwoods. So but there were none when she had her store. There were none left, and so she wanted to keep alive the memory of the Buttonwood Tree and where she came from when they moved over to the new location, and just keep that alive. So they named her shop, which used to be called Ibis Books. They changed it into the Buttonwood Tree. Now you might say, well, I've never heard of a Buttonwood tree. What kind of tree is that? Well, it's actually a nickname for the sycamore tree.
Oh, really?
Because back in the early days, I think around the 1600s, my good friend Alan Poole taught me, who was a tree person, I forget what you call, an arborist. He taught me that there's a seed pod on the sycamore tree, and when you open it up, the hard nut inside and the long stem makes a really good button. And years ago, they used to make buttons out of the seed pods from the sycamore tree, and that's how it got nicknamed the Buttonwood tree.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I love it because buttons connect. And that's one thing that the Buttonwood Tree does really well. It connects. It connects artists to artists, artists to fans. It connects friends. I can't tell you how many times people have come to the Buttonwood Tree and just serendipitously, run into an old friend or an old lover or, somebody or family members. I've had people come in who were family members who didn't even know that the other one, was going to go, and there they are together. They hadn't seen each other in years. It's crazy.
Well, Louise and I did that, remember? We came down for the New Year's Eve celebration, which wasn't actually held at the Buttonwood. It was down the street. But we ran into an old friend of mine from the dance community. I was into swing dancing for many, many years, and Marilyn was one of my many dance partners. And we saw her there. It's like, oh, my God, what are you doing here?
That's right. It's so wonderful to see. In fact, we've had over 14 that I know of, 14 couples who have gone on to get married.
Wow.
After meeting at the Buttonwood Tree.
Very cool. That's really great.
Including myself.
Yeah, that's right, because you and Mike met there.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to tell that story, because that's a great story. I mean, it's really Mike's story, but you got to tell your part of the story.
Okay, I'll tell my story. I want to finish first, though, telling people about the Buttonwood Tree, because it's more than music, and it's more than open mics. It's also drum circles and sound healings and yoga classes, including laughter yoga. And you might
Laughter
say,
yoga, there it
laughter
is.
yoga.
Yeah.
What is laughter yoga? Like, yeah, like I've heard people say, yeah, if I get into some of those positions, you'd be laughing at me.
Yeah, right.
But yes, laughter yoga has nothing to do with different asanas or positions. It has to do with breathing. Yoga is all about breathing. And when you laugh, actually, you are exercising your diaphragm.
True.
And breathing is, of course, so essential to us. When we focus on our breathing, it's a really good thing for us to do. In fact, that's how a lot of people meditate, of course, is by focusing on our breathing. So breathing is an important part of laughter yoga. And really what it is, it's a tool that you can develop through practice to help you manage stress. So if you practice laughter yoga, you practice laughing when there's really nothing to laugh about. When it's not that you heard a funny joke or anything, or somebody else is laughing. It's like you just practice laughing at this just to laugh. And as you practice that, then it makes it easier for you to laugh when you don't really even feel like laughing.
This is true. And that's a
So
good skill to have, by the way.
it's a great skill to have. So when you're really frustrated or upset, or I utilize it mostly when I'm frustrated or exasperated, or I'm sitting at the computer and I'm trying to do one thing and I'm finding that before I can do that thing, I have to download a new program, or I have to close this, or I have to do that. It's just getting like ridiculous. And so if I laugh, and I have to force myself to do that, but if I can laugh, eventually I will feel better. And that's the whole point, is to change your vibrational state from one of frustration or or disappointment or something like that, something negative, to something either neutral or even positive.
Now, I love the fact
So,
that when you promote laughter yoga, you're promoting the idea of managing stress, which makes a lot of sense because, as Louise has taught me, stress is what happens when you don't breathe properly. It's like that's the direct connection. When we're feeling stress, invariably we're breathing shallowly, and laughter yoga is a great way to combat that. But even more than that, and I'm curious to know how much you actually, when you're conducting your laughter yoga sessions or classes or whatever they are. I'm not sure what they are, but they're sessions for sure. When you're conducting them, do you also talk about the healing aspects of laughter? Because there's a lot of medical evidence that shows laughter is directly involved in bodily healing.
absolutely, absolutely. So in the beginning of the class, we usually start seated in a circle, and the instructor or the leader will uh, will talk about the origin of laughter yoga and how it was started by Dr. Kataria back in 1995 in India, and da 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 da, and all the benefits, not all the benefits, but certainly some of the benefits of laughter, and
Mm.
they'll talk about that. But I think I think even I want to say Time Magazine, I think, just did an article on laughter and the
They
benefits
did.
of
There was a
laughter.
cover. Yeah, they did a cover on
Yeah,
the benefits of laughter. Yeah. In fact, I think
yeah,
Robin Williams was on that cover with that, if I remember correctly.
yeah. I remember looking at it. I want to buy that, but it was like $13. I was like, I'm not going to buy that. Sorry. But I really wanted to read the article, so maybe I should just go buy it. But, there's so much science about how important laughter is for us. And I think it's so amazing that God created this body that can actually heal itself
Mm.
if we just feed it the right nutrients and don't stress it out. And even if there is stress, look, there's a tool you can use to manage your stress. Just laugh.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy how really simple life could be and how difficult we make it.
My first co-host back in late 2012 into 2013 was my sister-in-law, Iona, who is still in pursuit of a PhD in the neurosciences. And she was the one who introduced me to the fact that science has been able to determine that from the moment that the human animal laughs, from that moment there is a signal sent via neurotransmitters from the brain to whatever part of the body is most in need of healing. And that signal takes an entire time of 90 seconds to get there and begin the healing process. So literally, when we laugh, even if it's laughter yoga where there's nothing particular we're laughing at, we're just laughing for the sake of laughing, 90 seconds later, any healing we need is starting off. It's like it's kicking into high gear because of the neurotransmitter sending that chemical signal out through the body. Heal, heal, heal.
Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't that interesting? I knew that long before I heard about laughter yoga, but I just think it's fascinating that, when you put the two together, like, wow, you can actually fake yourself into healing.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's a very cool thing.
I'll never forget, in one of our laughter yoga classes, the leader talked about a friend of hers who was also a laughter leader, and she had broken her shin bone, and the bone was coming through the skin. The bone was sticking right out.
Ouch.
And she started laughing. And even when the paramedics got there and she was in the ambulance, she laughed the entire way. And she said it really helped because when you're laughing, and I can't even imagine this because I don't think I've ever done this actually, but she said, when you're laughing, you don't actually feel pain.
Well, yeah, that's actually one of the that's one of the reasons why this whole neurotransmitter transmission thing is studied, because the neurotransmitters involved are painkillers. They're anti-pain receptors, like endorphin. Endorphins are basically painkillers. And basically, the reason that the scientists were even studying the whole thing was just to find out what happens with the natural painkillers. And what they ended up finding is not only does it actually kill the pain, it also starts the healing process at the same time. So you get basically a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah, right. 2-for-1. Laugh your way to a 2-for-1.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great. So I really promote laughing, and I try to get my husband to laugh as much as possible. And
which doesn't take a lot of work. Mike is not a hard person to get laughing. He was like he wakes up every morning laughing, I think.
Well, I don't know about that.
Not quite. Okay. Maybe I'm exaggerating just a little bit, though. I mean, seriously, every time I've ever talked to him, he's got a big smile on his face, and every third word has a laugh behind it. I mean, he's a very happy person. It's really something.
He is. I mean, and that's where, the first time I saw him, we were sitting in a laughter yoga class, and I looked at him, and he was laughing, and his big, broad smile. I said, wow. I said, there's a guy who spends a lot of time being happy. And I really was attracted to that. So here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's how I met Mike at Laughter Yoga. And that was quite a story there. But
well, his story,
anyway.
How he ended up getting to the Buttonwood tree for that meeting was itself a pretty good story. I mean, it's actually written up in the book that we published this past May.
That's right.
And in that story, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but the gist of it was, I have no idea why I'm going to this meeting.
Yeah.
He was led there. He was just led there.
Yeah.
He was supposed to meet you, apparently, but he didn't know what it was going to be for.
I think so. I think he just followed his gut. He's pretty good at that. You just follow your gut, and all of a sudden he's signing up for laughter yoga, and then he's like, wait a minute, laughter yoga at the Buttonwood Tree? What the heck is that? Little
did he know he's actually well qualified for it, but nevertheless, he did it kind of blindly, right?
That's right. I told him, I said, one of these days I really want to become a laughter leader, because I really think it's important, and it's not too difficult. It's about a weekend. I think you have to spend a weekend, like 2 days of 8 hours of training.
Well, it's funny because
I'd like to do that one day.
Before this year, I'd never heard of laughter yoga, and now I have 2 co-hosts who are into it, because Tom Wells, who does the Monday and Friday morning podcast, has also done laughter yoga out in Colorado. And now here you are talking about it, and I'm thinking, wow, is this like some phenomenon I hadn't heard about before? What's going on here?
Well, hopefully it'll take over the world, Walt.
Yeah,
we'll all be laughing, doing laughter
Hey,
yoga,
there are much worse things to do. I mean, when you consider all the alternatives, that one's a pretty good one. It's basically spreading mirth, even if you're starting from a fake mirth to begin with. Because that's the thing, isn't it? When it's a contagious thing. It can be forced at first. I mean, I'm sure it feels kind of forced when you guys do a session, you're getting it started. But after you get going, everybody's been through that. Everybody has experienced that, regardless of whether they've been to a laughter yoga, just by sitting in an audience where a comedian was holding forth. And all that comedian has to do is get the audience going, and it just starts rolling. It gets to the point where the comedian says, may I have a glass of water? And the audience laughs, just because the laughter has gone so much, right?
Yeah, and it's truly contagious. It really is contagious, and it's such a healthy thing. It's amazing. And it's so much fun. It's like, who doesn't want to laugh? Who doesn't like to laugh?
Right?
You know?
Yep.
So it's really sad how underused it is,
Mm-hmm.
and how, some people are afraid to laugh because some people are self-conscious about laughing, and that's one of the things we do in laughter yoga is we try out different laughs. Like the leader will guide you into utilizing different types of laughter, so that when you're at home and you want to like just practice laughing, it's a really good thing to do when you're driving. Just practice laughing, and you'd be surprised at how difficult it is actually to laugh for any length of time.
Oh yeah, to do it deliberately, yes.
Yeah,
Unless you're
yeah,
Dick Van Dyke,
it's
of course.
hard.
If you're Dick Van Dyke and you're playing in the movie Mary Poppins some 50 years ago, he didn't have any trouble with it for some reason.
There you go.
In fact, he even itemized what the different kinds of laughter were in the song that he sang. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember Dick Van Dyke, but I don't remember. Tell me, do you remember?
Let's see. The lyric was some laugh too fast, some only blast. Other they twitter like birds, and he's repeating all these different kinds of laughs as he's singing the song. And then there are some that can't make up their mind, and they're laughing all different kinds of laugh styles.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah,
that's cool.
very silly.
That's
well, of
great.
course they're all having a tea party on the ceiling, which is a pretty silly thing.
Yes, I guess so. Yes. So the other thing about laughter yoga that I really appreciate is a little song that we sing.
Oh, really? You have a song that goes
And
with it?
yeah, it's a song, and you can even go on YouTube and look it up. And mostly around the world, they sing it the same way. Excuse me 1 second, I have to clear my throat.
That's all right. Take a moment. That's the one thing about doing a podcast. It's nice to have somebody else to be talking to, because then if you need to take care of yourself or mute your mic, the other person will cover you. It's okay. No big deal.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you. Yes. So there's a little song that we sing, and I've taught it to my granddaughter, and I wanted to teach it to my whole church, but they haven't quite accepted that yet. But I sing it to myself in the shower a lot, and
Okay.
I think it's a very therapeutic song,
Okay.
because it's basically you talking to your body and you talking to your cells in your body. The other day I was listening to somebody who said when your cells, now this is understanding that every cell in our body has consciousness. So when you talk directly to your cells, it's like your cells are listening to God.
That's
And
kind of
they
spooky when you think about it. I mean,
So
if my cells are looking up to me,
I know.
man, I hope I'm not disappointing them. I mean, really.
Well, they're listening to what you're saying.
I guess
And
so.
this song, I think, is very powerful. I think it has a lot of possibilities and a lot of potential. And the way the song goes is, and I won't sing you the whole song, but basically it repeats 2 lines, and it
Okay.
says, "Every little cell in my body is happy,"
Okay.
and "Little cell in my body is happy. Every little cell in my body is well. I'm so glad every little cell in my body is happy and well." And
Okay.
it just repeats that kind of those 2 verses over and over again in a little
So it's kind of like
pattern. It's very easy.
it's like a melodic affirmation in a sense.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's very easy to remember, and it's very simple, and you can do it all anytime. And actually in laughter yoga class, when we do that along with tapping. So you sort of tap your body all over as you're singing this song to kind of wake up your cells and activate certain points in your body. What points? I'm losing that word right now, but
Meridian?
meridian points. That could be it. But you activate all
Acupuncture?
of these points in your body, and it helps to wake them up, and it helps to move things. We don't move our bodies enough. Our bodies were designed to move, and so you got to move, and you got to tap, and you got to stretch them and exercise them and all that kind of stuff. So
This is true.
just singing that song and tapping your body, that's a healthy thing for you to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So you basically have a song that goes with it. You have an activity of laughing, and you're moving the body around. So this is a full blown exercise with a happy twist to it.
That's right.
That's
That's right. And that's what laughter yoga is about. And anybody can do it at any age. It doesn't require any particular kind of flexibility or anything like that. You just have to sort of let your ego go, not worry about your ego, because you can't worry about, well, what other people thinking about how I'm laughing or
Well,
what I
fortunately,
look
if you're
like when
doing
I'm
it in a group,
laughing.
everybody in the group is doing it, so there's nobody who's going to be looking at you saying, "Oh, you look so stupid doing that."
That's right. Because we all look pretty silly doing it,
That's
but it's
right.
all okay. It's childlike. It's good. It's okay.
And there's something also to be said for the fact that we are not well, not me. I haven't actually been part of your laughter yoga setting, so to speak, but we are all in every aspect of our lives involved in trying to get ourselves into better feeling places. At least those of us who are deliberate creators or attempting to learn to be deliberate creators using the law of attraction. And laughing is probably one of the best ways we can get there. Because, I mean, there are times, right, when all of us, I've actually been experiencing that a little bit lately, but there are times when it's just hard to move into that positive range. That positive emotional range can seem like it's out of reach. Even though you were there the last 4 days in a row, that today, some reason you can't seem to get there. Well,
Right.
laughter is a good way to get there.
That's right. And I think if you're really, really down, laughter is, it's I find appreciation, for me personally, appreciation is a little bit easier, or even feeling gratitude, because I know, you had a great conversation the other day about the difference between gratitude and appreciation, and you were right on with all that stuff, and I love how you brought up that appreciation has the same vibration as bliss. I love that.
Yeah, and that's something.
So I'm gonna say, oh, I just switched over to. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I think you actually accidentally hit the little speaker button on your app because your voice tonality switched, which makes me wonder if you're on speaker.
Okay, how's that?
There you are.
Is
You're
that
back.
better?
Much better. Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry about that.
That's all right.
So what I was saying is, for me, feeling gratitude helps me to get there. It's easier for me to do that than when I'm trying to change from a really negative feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for me to feel gratitude, but it's also sort of simpler if I'm sitting in my computer for some reason and being frustrated. Laughter is an easier way for me to get out of it and for me to, like, what I call pivot to the positive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good exercise
But
to
if
do.
I'm feeling, yes, pivoting to the positive, it's a very good exercise that of course I learned through Abraham Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
But gratitude, I think when I'm feeling other types of negative emotion, gratitude is a way for me to get out of that. But feeling gratitude, laughter, same objective is
Mm-hmm.
to change us from a negative or a down vibration to a more positive vibration.
Yeah, it's very good for that, and it'll move you quickly. That's the thing that I especially like laughing about, or well, not necessarily laughing at that, but I like laughter for that purpose. Put it that way, because it does move you there quickly.
Right.
Especially if you're doing it with friends. That's the thing that makes it really easy. If you're talking with friends, like when the four of us get together and go out to dinner, we're laughing half the time that we're eating there. It just comes naturally, it comes easily
Right.
because we're all in this high vibrational conversation that we're all so excited about. You get like that, boy, you just fly really quickly. It doesn't matter how you came in.
That's right. And it's I think it's a lot easier when you're around other people.
Yeah.
To get into that higher vibration. It's just we're with friends, so it's just naturally better
Exactly.
to do that. Sometimes when you're alone, you get stuck in your head, or even if you're with your partner, you're still stuck in your head and stuck in your funk, and it's a little bit harder to get out. But as soon as you put yourself around other people, you kind of know that you kind of have to push yourself out of it and even fake your way into being more positive. And then if you stay with that, you eventually become more positive. It becomes a true feeling rather than a pretend feeling.
Oh,
but
definitely.
You just got to push your way through it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it doesn't take all that much pushing if you're doing it with friends. Because, that's basically, this is my constant theme, how much I enjoy doing the podcast. But literally, I enjoy doing the podcast so much because I have so many friends I'm doing it with. Many of them, you're actually one of the few co-hosts I've met in person.
Right.
The others I've never actually met in person, or at least many of them I haven't. But even with that fact kind of, baldly staring me in the face, they're all friends. So I'm having a conversation with a different friend on a podcast each day. And invariably there's something fun to laugh at or to joke about or just smile about or just feel good about. And it picks me up every time. I actually have a sort of an NLP association now with doing the podcast. All I have to do is think about the podcast and get ready to do the podcast. And within 5 minutes, I'm like 5 levels up on the emotional scale just because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you said NLP, what did you mean by NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming. The idea that if you keep reinforcing the same behavior over and over again, and it keeps producing the same kind of emotional result, you are basically programming yourself for that. So all you have to do is touch the association, and you start feeling the result because of the programming that has gone in.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. The same way you start salivating when you think about pizza or cake or something.
Yeah. Same kind of thing. Yep.
Gotcha.
All you have to do is just mention it, and the association happens instantly. And if it's a really strong association, like the podcast is for me and for my co-host, I'm glad to say, it just kind of transports you. In fact, I think it's actually happening for our listeners too, which I'm really, really happy about. It's showing up at least. We'll put it this way. We have so many listeners who are listening to so many episodes. I figure they must like it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, right? That's got to be the only way that you're going to continue to download all these episodes. And that's exactly what's happening. In fact, yesterday, Anne-Marie, normally the weekends are a little bit slower in terms of downloads because I can see what days, downloads are happening. Normally Monday through Friday, which makes sense. That's when most of our episodes are. Those are the days when we get all the downloads. Usually the weekend, it kind of drops off. You can see the graph. It's like an up and down graph, and the down part is the weekend, and the up part is the rest of the week. Well, yesterday, I think we had something like 600 or 700 downloads, and we're normally like around 100 or 200. So, what it tells me is people are tuning in at all different kinds of times. And I've even made note of the fact that we have binge listeners now, people who listen to a whole bunch of episodes in a row. I think a lot of them are doing it on the weekends now, which is really cool.
Wow.
So apparently...
That's great news.
Yeah, it is great news. So apparently, this podcast thing isn't just good for me, and it isn't just good for my co-host. It's good for all of us. So I kind of like to see this as this phenomenon that's just, it's an emerging phenomenon that only a few hundred people know about, but more and more people are going to learn about it over time. And, well, that reminds me, I got to get our announcements in here. First announcement for those of you who are existing subscribers, you've been listening for a while, and we love you for being listeners. We want you to take a moment to send something out on your favorite social media channel that includes the phrase loatoday.net. Because we've been doing that as an experiment for about 10 days now, 11 days now. And as a result of that, we're seeing a spike in traffic. We're seeing more and more people. We're seeing an increase in growth that is faster than what we were getting before. So it's already paying off. And yet, even as I do my searching around to find who's doing it, it's actually a small number of listeners who are doing it. I just keep imagining, Anne-Marie, what if all of the listeners just took the time to put one note out? Can you imagine how many more people would find about LOA today? Because even with just a few, 1 or 2% doing it, we're seeing a spike in traffic. I can only imagine what the spike would look like if like all of our 150 odd regular subscribers were to put something out there. So that's what I keep hoping. I keep hoping one day they're going to say, you know what, I really should do that. I should do exactly what Walt said. They haven't done it yet, but I keep hoping.
Well, let's just keep imagining it, and someday it'll get there. Slowly but surely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll get there.
There's also the second thing. I said there were two messages. The second message is for people who are not yet subscribers. Perhaps this is one of the first episodes they've ever listened to, which is great. We love it. We're glad that you made it, and we're glad that hopefully you're enjoying it. If this is your first episode and you've already stuck it out for the first 38 minutes, you probably like it. That's a good thing. So we want to encourage you to become a subscriber as well. All you have to do is go to the homepage of the website at loatoday.net. The instructions are right there. It's really easy. It takes about a minute. And when you're all done, all of the episodes, as they're created, get sent automatically to your iPhone or your Android or tablet or whatever device you're using, so you can listen and play anytime you want to. So there we have our two promotional announcements for the day, which is important.
Very good. Very good. Yay!
Very good. Yeah, that's a phrase you and Mike introduced Louise and I to. VGVGY. Where did that come from? Very good.
Yes,
very good.
That's right. Well, that's another thing from Laughter Yoga. In fact, Laughter yoga. After we do our little exercises, we sort of clap our hands to the left and then clap our hands to the right and then lift our hands over our head saying, very good, yay. When you lift your hands over your head, it automatically produces endorphins that make you feel better.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah. So, and then I learned that through laughter yoga. So imagine all the people in the football stadium lifting their hands over their heads, back and forth, back and forth. That makes you feel better.
Okay.
So very good, yay is something that Mike and I say to each other just to encourage each other and lift each other up. And, sort of, it's like a pat on the back, just encouraging each other. And when we text, we started when we met and we were starting to text back and forth, writing out very good, yay is a little bit long. So we made the abbreviation of VGVGY. So now we can just say VGVGY and we know what we mean.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, I mean, there are a lot of famous
acronyms,
acronyms,
right? Society is going now. It's abbreviating everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how many of them? LOL, IDK. I mean, there are so many of them out there right now. So why not VGVGY?
That's right. Kentucky Fried Chicken is now KFC.
KFC,
right?
That's right.
So
they don't even call it Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore.
They don't. It's KFC, babe. It's KFC.
Crazy. I mean, what does the Colonel think? The Colonel must be rolling over. Like, what did they do to the name of my place? I can't believe it.
Probably.
Poor guy. Oh.
Oh, yeah. But so we have a lot of fun at Laughter Yoga. And so that's one of the things that we've been doing for many years at the Buttonwood Tree that I'm really proud of. And I really wish more people would take advantage of it because it's such a useful tool. But, it's like anything in life, Walt. You really have to push yourself to practice it, to do it. And it's stepping out of your comfort zone. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to step out of their comfort zone. So they wind up getting sick and going to doctors and popping pills and dying early. And I don't want to see our society doing that. I want to see us living healthy, natural lives where we're full of vigor and health and laughter, and we live long, prosperous, successful lives. And you can do it naturally. You just have to get out of your comfort zone and practice natural tools like laughing.
Absolutely. Well, plus you also, if you're living in the Middletown, Connecticut area, you've got the Buttonwood available. Because, I mean, you guys actually have something going on practically every day of the week, don't you?
We do. It seems like that, one thing or another, whether it's a yoga class or laughter yoga or sound healing or an open mic or a storytelling event. We have 2 storytelling programs, one on the first Friday and one on the second Sunday. So you can come and tell a story, and there's just so many things you can do. And if you have a program that you want to share with other people, or you have a talent, or you want to start a discussion group or start a book club or something like that, you can always come to the Buttonwood Tree and we'll try to find a spot in our schedule for you.
That's what's so amazing because, I mean, like you were describing earlier, the Buttonwood Tree is 2 not really big rooms on Main Street in Middletown. And one of them is basically your bookstore and sort of like a cafe. The other one is where all the stuff happens, and it's also where your piano is. And it's not like this really big space. Like you said, what is it, maximum 45 people? And yet, right. with facilities that small, my God, you got stuff going on every day of the week. I don't know that there are many small venues that can promise and claim that. I mean, most of the small venues I've seen of any kind, maybe they've got something going on the weekend, like Friday night, maybe Thursday night, Monday if they're lucky, but 7 nights a week? Nah, you don't see that very often.
No, you don't. That's because I have a hard time saying no. I like letting people do what they want to do. So you want to do that? That sounds great. Sure, bring it on. Let's go.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah,
so let's go back.
My weakness. There we go. Right in the first show. There's my weakness. One of them, anyway.
I got to warn you, Anne Marie. I mean, David, who also lives in our area in Connecticut, he lives in the Hartford area, is one of our listeners, and he and Louise and I met one time, had a great coffee together and so forth. And in the course of that meeting, that luncheon that we had, he said to me, "Walt, you do realize I know everything about you." And I had to think about that and realize, you know what, he does, because I talk about my life on the podcast. So it's like it's an open book. So I got to warn you, Anne Marie, everybody's going to know everything about you by the time you're done here.
Well, that's okay.
That's okay.
I'm a firm believer in transparency, so that's okay with me.
Well, that's a good thing. Now, speaking now, since you've given me the opening, I got to take it one step further. Of course, I mean, we talked about your role at the Buttonwood. But how did you get into the law of attraction? I mean, because I suppose it's possible somebody came and gave a lecture on the law of attraction, but I have a sneaking suspicion you were aware of it before that. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I dated a guy years and years ago, back in 2001, and he started giving me Abraham tapes on cassette tapes. He had them. And I listened to Abraham over and over and over and over again. And I was like, this is amazing stuff. And one of the ones I really remember, in fact, you were talking about it recently, was segment intending.
Oh, yeah.
And I use that. I still use that today. And I teach my kids about that. I'm like, you've got to make a positive intention before everything you do. You know, you get in the car, we put my seatbelt on, and I make a positive intention. I say, I am a safe driver, and I make an intention to have a safe trip. And I just think there's so many valuable tools that Abraham has supplied over the years. It's just amazing how many different ways you can change your negative thinking into positive thinking, and how you can change your life by just thinking differently. And it's just such a helpful tool that I love listening to Abraham. I've only gone to one of their seminars in person, but
yeah, me too. Actually,
I would love to go to more. And
in fact, Louise and I went to our first one this year.
I listen a lot on YouTube. Yes, you did go recently. I think it was in April you went.
Yeah. It was the first time I'd ever been to one, and it was quite educational. It was not exactly what I thought. I mean, the format is what you see on the YouTube videos and what you see on the videos when you subscribe to one of Abraham's packages. But being in the room is a little bit different, and it wasn't quite what I expected. I mean, it was great. It was fine. Don't get me wrong. But I remember telling the story, I think it was like the next podcast after Louise and I went. I was just surprised during the breaks. No one talks to each other. I mean, you have a whole room full of people who are into Abraham, who are law of attraction fans, and nobody talks to each other. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this, like every other theater that you ever go to or something? I don't know. It's very strange. But the event itself was great. And,
it was weird.
And it's also, it's kind of fun when you are going not as a newbie, but rather as somebody who has been through, learning all the stuff, and you're fairly well versed in Abraham teachings, and you hear Esther doing her thing on stage, and all of it sounds very familiar. It's always the same thing. Well, Abraham himself, or themselves. Abraham actually tells us many times, we're loving to hear every single question you have. We'll be happy to answer all of them. We just want you to know that it's always the same answer. It's just basically the way of saying it's always the same. I mean, it's basically one concept. Get into a happy, aligned place, and all your dreams come true. That's basically it in a nutshell.
It's true. It's true. Like I said before, life is really very simple. We just make it very complicated.
We're good at that too. We were really good at it. We find all different kinds of ways to make life very, very complex. But on the other hand, that's how we make things interesting too. I mean, life is about enjoying life. That's the biggest part of the message that Abraham gives us. And I think it's probably the most important one. Life is here. We're here in life to enjoy life. And I think it's probably the one thing that they say more than anything else that makes me follow what they teach. I mean, they teach some really good stuff, don't get me wrong, and I love learning how the law of attraction works and so forth. But just the message that we are here to love and enjoy life. I mean, you never hear that from any religion. I don't know of many philosophies that even suggest that one. Most philosophies are actually pretty depressing when you come right down to it. It's the only teacher I've ever heard of who said, hey, you're here to enjoy life. Have fun. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that.
Right. Well, I think, Walt, I've thought about this a lot, and I think that I think that every teacher that comes through has a certain bent, has a certain focus. And I think Abraham's focus is to help us learn how to enjoy our lives better and how to help us get our stuff, as they say. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you want all these things. We see you frustrated and not getting your stuff. We want to teach you how to get your stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very, very, very important. But I also believe that we're here to learn and we're here to experience the contrast of life. And so and Abraham has taught me so much. But one of the things that they've taught me that I really appreciate is when they say, you've got to appreciate all of it. You've got to appreciate like the good and the bad. You know,
Yeah,
they say that frequently.
they do, yeah, and it's actually one of the more challenging parts of what they teach, but it's very valid.
Yeah, and they say that, you know, for example, if you're feeling negative, that's great. Look at that and say, okay, why am I feeling negative? What is it? Where am I out of balance? And you know, what is this that's causing this? And be grateful. They say even to be grateful for the negative feelings. And I'm like, what? You want me to be grateful for that? So, but when I start to do that, it does help. It helps me to realize that. So it helps me ultimately to be happier.
It's a good reminder, really, now that you say that, because I was actually a little struggling earlier today. I mean, Louise and I went out to do a couple things for fun, and at one point she commented that I was kind of distant, and I apologized because I really was. I mean, I was off in a place that was not a real happy place, and I was kind of stuck there, and I wasn't actively taking the time to appreciate the fact that I was stuck there. Because that's not normally something we do, right? Even those of us who are deliberate creators, we still kind of slip up at times, and there I was in that just kind of, you know, I was what Esther calls ornery, a word that I never use in any other context, right? I never use that in common conversation, but ornery, it kind of applies. I was in an ornery mood.
Yep.
And when you're in that ornery mood, the last thing you think about is, well, I so appreciate I'm feeling ornery. It's just not what comes to mind naturally. But it is important to recognize it. And even as you were saying it just now, it was lightening my feeling about that experience this afternoon. Just by mentioning it. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. There was something good in that. And I didn't necessarily know it at the time, but there was something good in it. And I don't even have to know what the good is. It will show up in one way. Actually, it'll probably show up in a lot of ways, actually. But it will show up in at least one way and probably more than one way. And it doesn't really matter when it's going to show up. I can just count on the fact that it's going to show up. So I can feel good about it.
That's right. And you know that if you stay in a positive or keep a positive focus, you know things are going to get better. And that's one of the things I love about the whole law of attraction philosophy or teaching or whatever is that it's stable. You know, the law of attraction is a constant law across all the galaxies. You know, like gravity is only applicable here on planet Earth, but the law of attraction applies everywhere. And so you can trust it. You can trust it.
Well, there are physicists who might disagree with that. There are physicists who tell you that gravity applies everywhere, but I do understand your point.
You know, Abraham has said, I'm pretty sure it was Abraham. I don't know. I listen to a lot of teachers, but I think Abraham has said that, you know, gravity is not applicable in other universes. But anyway, that's diverging, I guess.
That's all right.
But the law of attraction, I mean, let's just take the law of attraction and being here on planet Earth. It's a constant. It's there. It's always there. It's always working. Even if we don't utilize it knowingly, we are still sort of having it happen to us, you know, and we're attracting things, whether we think negatively or whether we think positively, we are attracting things to us. And I think the more you know, the more you can consciously and, as they say, deliberately create. And
yes,
that's where our power is.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
In fact, that's what the goal is, but it's also a bit of a reminder and a little bit of a wake-up call, too. Because the way I think about it is everything that comes into my life I attracted, whether I wanted it or not. And that's what I call the oh bleep phenomenon. Oh bleep, I attracted that again. Oh no.
Oh bleep. Oh, I like that. At first, I thought you were saying oblique.
No,
but
bleep.
Bleep. I like
Bleep.
that.
Yes. Oh, bleep. I did it again. I just attracted something else. Something I didn't really want. It happens so frequently.
That's funny.
But it's a reminder because until I first got exposed to this whole thing, I mean, I didn't think I attracted anything. I thought stuff just happened to us because that's, pretty much what we're socially taught to believe. But when Abraham comes along with this concept, not just Abraham, but other teachers too, comes along with this concept of the law of attraction, and Abraham was the one who said it most blatantly, that we attract everything into our lives. I thought to myself, oh God, I'm so screwed. It's bad enough I can't blame somebody else, but now it's all me. Oh no, God, I'm so screwed.
That's right. That's right. And that's something that you're good to recognize and good to accept. It's very difficult. A lot of people are not ready to accept the fact that they create the circumstances in their lives.
But on the other hand, I also realized that as time goes on, as I learn to be more selective about how I feel about stuff and what stuff I'm going to focus on and so forth, then actually it's an empowering thing. I mean, the initial reaction is, oh God, I'm doing all this to myself. But the longer term reaction is, hey, this gives me a lot of power. I actually get to control what's going to happen in my life. And if I slip up at times, I slip up. But the point is, like you said, this is a learning experience. We're all learning how to apply this stuff better and better. And the better we get at it, well, the better we get at it, the better our lives end up being. So that's a good thing. That's actually not a bad thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Every day. I thank God for the power of creation.
Yes.
Because we're creating and he's given us that power. And so I am so grateful for that power of creation and my creativity. And, we're all creative. We just have to let it out and find ways to express it.
We're going to have plenty of opportunities to express them, too, because that's the one thing when you do a weekly podcast. Lots of opportunities to express creativity, let me tell you, which is a good thing. I mean, you've been listening quite a bit. So, for instance, how Wendy Dillard, who for the longest time was doing all the afternoon podcasts. Now she does the Tuesday and Thursday podcasts with me. And she initiated a project. She called it Project X. She initiated here on the podcast. That was last February. And just Friday, she ended up transitioning away from her W-2 job and is now fully self-employed as a result of that. I mean, talk about deliberate creation. Holy cow.
Yeah. That was an exciting step for her.
Yeah.
I congratulate her because that was a big step. And it was great to see her going through that and going through that whole process and listening to her thoughts as she transitioned from one stage to the next. That was great.
Yeah. It's like we often want to have a rule book or a step-by-step guide to life. I don't know about you, but early on in life, I wondered why life didn't come with a rule book. Why it didn't come with like a translation manual to translate for me all the crazy things that were being taught to me. Because a lot of them, I'd look at them askance like, what the hell am I learning that for? I don't understand. So it would have been nice to have a rule book, but now I have a rule book, and the rule is really simple.
Yep, we do. I think we're getting more and more teachers to help us understand kind of what the rules are and what the laws of the universe are. And I'm so grateful for all the teachers that are coming out now and helping us. It's just great. I think we live in such an exciting time, and I'm so glad Abraham talks about us being on the leading edge. That's so exciting. So I want to thank you again, Walt, for having me on and inviting me on. It's really been fun, and I look forward to next week.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm glad that you decided to agree to do it. I was kind of wondering who I was going to get to do the Sunday podcast when David told me he was going to move on. I knew that I'd find somebody. I just wasn't sure who it would be. And I have to admit, one of the first people I thought of was you. So when you said yes, I said, oh, yay, time for a happy dance.
Yay, I like that.
So VGVGY, right?
Yes, that's right. VGVGY, that's right.
See, I'm learning the lingo. It takes me a while sometimes, but I'm learning the lingo. I'm getting there.
Very good, Walt. Now, the next thing is I want to see you and Louise at a Tuesday class.
At a Tuesday,
we have it first. First and third Tuesdays at 6:00. So I want to see you there.
You may have to wait a little bit until the gardening season is over, but you have a better chance of getting that to happen in the fall or winter. Let's put it that way.
I'm a patient person, and we'll still be doing it in the fall.
All right, very good.
I'll wait.
Anne-Marie, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to doing this with you next week.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Walt. You take care.
You do the same, and we'll hope that you'll come back next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.